You're watching PEGRI TV, Rhode Island's public access channel.
Salam. My name is Sheikh Abu Hakim Abdullah, President Chairman of Al-Masjid Sharia Allah, AMSA, a non-profit religious organization operating in the state of Rhode Island, USA. I've been coming to audiences, my brothers and sisters, for years now, talking the same thing. We must change. We must go back to the original form of Islam. Which is not going to be easy. It's not going to be an easy thing to do. Because once you start rolling down the hill, like a snowball, you throw a little snowball, a little ball about that big down the hill with a lot of snow, and by the time it gets down to the bottom of the hill, it's big as a house. Big as a house. Just keeps on rolling and gaining weight, rolling and gaining weight. And that's what's happening to us. Some years ago, we started mixing our own little things into our deen, our culture, our ideas. All these things we started mixing into our deen. We didn't intend to do this, and then there's some of us that did intend to do this, to further their own goals and ideas and desires, and greed and other things. That happens in all things. That happens in everything on earth that happens, and you got people who do these things. Now it's time for us to take back our deen, to stand up and practice the democratic system of Islam. It's a democratic system in there, because the majority of the systems on this earth came out of Islam. Islam was the first one that started integration. Islam started putting people in their right order. Started showing people how to do the right thing. And people took it from here, took from there, took from here, took from there, took from there, and used it on their own things. So it's time for the believing Muslims, the Mu'min, to take over their deen. And not trying to make the one that can speak the most Arabic be the leader, or the one that knows the most Quran be the leader, or the one that got 2 years college be the leader. But the leader is those that we choose. And Allah help us to choose this leader. It's the one that is most loved by the people and most understood by the people and most kind among the people and most dedicated to the Islam and the people. And the one that's a good follower, the best follower, is among us. See, before you can be a good follower, before you can be a good leader, you must be a good follower. Because in order to be a leader, you must know what the followers want and need. So you must be a good follower. That's the best leader. Not somebody that's rich, got a whole bunch of money, or is knighted, or some bishop, or some queen, or some king, or it's not the way you judge a leader. So we must begin to put a leader back in our order. And we must reorganize ourselves to stand only for Allah and what Allah says we should stand for. We can't play two leaders. There's no such thing as one-sided Islam. Yes, we pick up our garbage with our left hand and the good things with our right hand, but we're still not one-sided. It's just that what we use for dirt and what we use for cleanliness. But yet the dirt comes out of us. So we use that part of our hand, that part of ourselves, to wipe ourselves, to clean ourselves with that. To hold certain parts of ourselves with the left hand. And the right hand, we do other things with that are good. But don't say that the left hand doesn't have a good purpose. It just has, that's the point, is that we use that to pick up garbage. We use that to pick up the things that's not clean among us, about us. So we must begin now to get our deen back inside of ourselves. And like I said, that's not going to be an easy job. That's not, because we've been for so many years putting so much junk into our deen that that even though you open up the Quran, you can't even see the truth no more. You can't recognize what is truthful anymore. A lot of us, great deal of us. A great deal of us are being fooled and whatnot by people who call themselves scholars. People that openly violate the laws of Islam and telling you that you fall into Islam. Let's take that thing put the bomb on your chest, or sitting in a car that's loaded with bombs, and boom, pull the trigger. There's there's no place in Islam, and there's for no reason can you do that. No reason whatsoever. I don't care if you're in war or what it is. You can't do that. You can't knowingly kill yourself. Because it's a big sin. Because of what it's for. It's for to save your mother, your grandmother, your father, your sister, your brother. It's still what for. You can't do it. Allah forbids it. And what Allah forbids, we cannot do that. And that's the way we must live. Last time I spoke to you about organizing. We must organize ourselves, our communities, our Beit Masalis, our houses of prayer, mats, our masjids, those that we build up from the ground up, the righteous masjid, the truthful masjid, the mosque itself that is truthful. We must turn around then and do these things, develop these things to do something. Like I told you, I went overseas to Kuwait. And as being in, by the time I was in Kuwait, after prayer, there was nothing going on after prayer for the Muslims. Very few Muslims had real classes. Very few activities going on. The only reason that they worked for Muslims in that country and not disbelievers is because there was no disbelievers owning anything that they had to work for. So they worked for Muslims all the time. It wasn't Islam they were working for, it was Muslims they worked for. They worked in the shoe factories that made shoes, with the Muslim shoes. God bought a shoe factory. Worked at McDonald's, they opened up a McDonald's. They opened up a fish and chip joint down by the water. They worked there. They worked in tea houses and stuff like that. But all this stuff there was for the individual owned it. It wasn't Islam owning it. It was the individual owning it that happened to be a Muslim. So by being a Muslim, he had to go ahead and make room for prayer also. So he made room for prayer. You see, but today in the countries that we live in countries that are so-called Christian countries, Buddhist countries, Hindu countries, Catholic countries. So we have to go ahead, and in these countries, we have to go where our mosques are at. We must turn around and we build a mosque here. We build this mosque right here. You put this mosque. Then next to it, you put a little building, and that building has a doorway going in like that. And you turn around and you make that your economic department. You make that your social department. You make that your community center. You make all these things out of this one building. And and why you make the economic department is because you must get money invested in your mosques. You cannot keep dependent on Sedekah. Like I said in the last time I spoke with you, I said, every time we want something or need something in the mosque, we got to take around a cup. We got to involve Sedekah. The mosque has the bank account at the mosque is so small, at the average mosque, you can't buy nothing with it. You're lucky if you can get stamps with some of the money in the mosque. And the money that you got the stamps with is Sedekah again. The masjid must make its own money. Islam must make its own money. So what you do, you turn around, and if you turn around and you tell people, say, look, what we want to do is open up a few restaurants and sell food underneath the religious order of the restaurants. We don't have to charge taxes on people. We put low prices on this food because it's let me explain it another way. Years ago when I was a kid, they had somebody called Father Divine. And Father Divine had a community. It was a socialistic socialistic religious organization of the Baptist or Protestant churches. But he was Father Divine. And this is during the war, the Second World War. And people had food stamps back then was coupons, tokens, coupons. You had one for sugar, you had one for gasoline, you had one for food, you had one for soap and utility, all kinds of different reasons. You had these different coupons, and they were marked for these things. And the food for 25 cents, for 25 cents, you could get a plate like that big, filled up with greens and cornbread and pig and, you know, all that. But at that time, pig was the main thing. Pig, pork chops and all that kind of stuff. Ham bones and all that, mixing the greens and stuff. It was called what the people in this country call soul food. All right, you got that soul food. This is what we must open up for our people that's not working. We must open up restaurants that cater to little amounts of money. A lot of food, little money. They have these places here that you don't need no money, and if you're on welfare, you can go in there and get something to eat. If you're getting the food stamps, you can go in there and get something to eat. You got a welfare card, you can get something to eat. People living in the street can go in there also, get a card, and get something to eat. We must make these kind of restaurants and teach people how to be short order cooks. How to teach them how to be short order cooks so they can go out there and get jobs. Teach them how to run restaurants so they can go ahead and get jobs. And that would be owned by the masjid. So the masjid owns it, and so now we can say Islam owns it. And they get paid by the masjid. Now, how you open up these restaurants, that's another story I have to tell you. But I can tell you these stories. I've been involved in all this kind of stuff. In Brooklyn, New York, I had a place that I used to do this kind of stuff in Brooklyn, New York. I had 5 or 6 stores at one time. I had a 12-family house another time. I had all this stuff in my hands, so I had a Frankfurter stand, a barbecue stand, chicken in the cellar, selling meat and all that as a butcher. I had 3 or 4 people working for me, working there. And my family and I consider this a law, we were working for, a law thing. We didn't consider I had mine. It was a law thing because it was given to me by a Yahudi. Yahudi gave me all this property and got me started along. But back to this other thing. So I know how to do this. I have done this. And this I'm trying to introduce you to. I'm trying to start this among the Muslims. And another thing I try to do is bring a relationship between a country overseas that could come into this country and have a relationship with this state. And it was working. But the point is, I'm trying to show you, these are ways you have to get the money. There's also another thing that you have to do. The masjid must have a real estate company or a trading company, wherein if a person overseas wants 25 cows, alive cows, they will call the masjid up in the economic department. the finance department, and that job will be given to the masjid to do. And the masjid will go out and tell people, put things in the papers, looking for 25 good cows, heifers, Jersey cows, or milk cows, or cattle, whatever they want, whatever kind they want. And the finder's fee will be paid on both ends by the person that wanted this thing and the person that sold this thing. We'll give you the finder's fee like the banks do. The banks find you something and they charge you 26%. 30% today. Why can't we tell the brothers overseas, when you want something, don't go to these other people and buy. Come through your own people and get this stuff. Do like the Jewish people do. Do like the Italians do. Do like the Chinese do. Do like the Puerto Ricans do. Do like the Dominicans do. Do like all these different people do it. Why can't we do it? And make it happen. So when we go out and somebody want $2 million worth of cattle, we go out and find them $2 million worth of cattle. And they give us a finder's fee. And the person that wants to do this business will give us a finder's fee to do the business. Now, since we are a religious organization and not a profit organization, we're not doing this for money, so they can write this stuff off. We're non-profit. Do you understand look at what I'm saying to you. Sit down and really sit down and listen to what I'm saying to you. I know the problems with making stuff overseas. It's hard to open up a factory overseas. It's hot, it's dry, it's whatnot. Food, things dry up, things go to waste, things get destroyed. I'm not talking about I'm not talking about opening up your country to make it a sporting place, a hangout for the rich. Or making the rich richer. And turn your place into use this word straight up, a whorehouse. This is what we're using for, it's a whorehouse. There's a lot of brothers overseas. You got brothers building these little islands and putting houses on these little islands and whatnot. And the water is rising in these areas here. The water is rising because the ice is melting. The ice is melting and the water is getting higher. And they're building these houses on the water, and the water's going to knock them down. They're going to be on the water. They're looking like Venice. Venice is sinking. Half of Venice is closed down. Houses are closed. You see that in the movie. You see it on documentaries. So the water's rising. People are building their house now on stilts. Now they got to walk upstairs, not because they got stairs there, because they got it built up so high, they told me they didn't get up there with stairs or build an elevator. They got on stilts, 20 feet stilts. This is what they're going to have to do in our immigrants. Everything's going to have to be on stilts. And Florida might become a big swimming pool with alligators swimming around and snakes swimming around and people diving off of buildings because the water's rising up. The Everglades are going to be underwater. We're going to look like Waterworld. Remember that picture of Waterworld? If you don't remember, go get a tape or look or or look on your computer. You might be in one of them old movies up there, and look at Wonderwell. That's what it's coming. That's what it's coming to. The small island. We got 1 or 2 islands now in the Pacific, underwater. It's almost underwater. They only got a little piece of land left. So I'm trying to tell you something. Listen to me, please. And look at what I'm saying to you. And you can see it. You can see the dream I'm talking about. This is no hypothetical dream. This is a factual thing you can do. I told you there's answers to what I told you, that why you must clean up your deed. And you must tell brothers overseas, tell these brothers, say, brother, wait, brother, wait. We have companies over there, organizations in the United States that will buy these things, will get these things for you, find these things for you, and you can invest in these things or get these things and buy it for yourself. They'll ship it over to you and whatnot. Now, we're not asking you, please. This is a business. Islam has, the mosques have businesses. Islam now has a business going on in it. For now, our Muslim brothers and sisters don't have to work all these hours of a non-Muslim. They don't have to work for a person that's an alcoholic, a drug addict, a Moffedite, and all these other things. They don't have to be involved with this no more. They can work for themselves. I'm not saying just segregate yourself from them completely. But look out for your own. You don't see ants going into a snake's house to look out for it. You don't see rabbits going into a lion's den in order to clean it up. But why are you doing it then? Why are you going into snakes' houses, lion houses, and all these reptiles and all this other stuff that you involve yourself in? You're working in these places, the beer place, the piggery, all these different places you shouldn't be in. You're justifying selling all this other stuff that you're not supposed to be selling. Pork chops, all this kind. There's brothers walking around here today that's selling swine, that's selling beer, that's selling liquor, and saying, well, I'm Muslim, I don't drink it, but I can sell it to them. No, you can't. You're not supposed to touch anything that you can't use yourself. You're not supposed to give nothing to somebody that's no good for you. And this is what we're doing. We're doing this. So, my sisters and my brothers and anybody else that's listening, that's Muslim or not Muslim, that's part of the plan of reorganizing yourselves. Reorganizing our way of ourselves and our deeds. To follow this by the letter. Not, you can't half it. There's no such thing as half of Islam. And anybody that tell you that is a liar, and you got to watch them. There's no such thing as half of Islam. You can't be a part-time Muslim. You got to be a full-time Muslim, don't be a Muslim at all. That's what I'm saying to you. The average, a child 9 years old then heard the story of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam maybe 200 times in his lifetime, heard the story, and we keep giving out the story of Prophet Muhammad. Oh, we keep talking about Islam, the saying Quran, and not saying what we're supposed to be doing with our jobs, what we're supposed to be doing with our health. Not talking about those things. Those things in Quran. sell stuff the price that you